The night my wife died, I promised our children I would keep the house clean enough for her to be proud of. I failed by the third week. Grief does not wash plates. Grief does not sweep the compound, or fold school uniforms, or wipe the red dust from worry off the windowsills. Grief sits heavy in the chest and watches the mess grow. By the time the mourners stopped bringing rice and the condolence banners came down, our small bungalow in Otokutu looked like a place that had given up. Before we continue, if you are new to my channel, please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the bell notification icon so you will be the first to be notified anytime I upload a new story. Let's continue. I am not a lazy man. I work 12-hour shifts at the tank farm, checking gauges, signing waybills, breathing diesel. I come home with my boots heavy and my eyes burning. My mother, Mama Efe, lives with us since her stroke 3 years ago. She cannot walk without help. She sits in her wheelchair by the window from morning till night, watching the road, holding her rosary, calling for water, calling for my wife as if she forgot. My daughter Ada is 11 and too grown for her age. She braids her own hair now and tries to cook indomie without burning it. My son Timmy is 7 and still asks when mommy is coming back from the hospital. That was why I put the paper on the gate. House help needed. Live-in preferred. I could not afford an agency. I could only afford honesty. 5 women came the first day. One wanted Sundays off to travel to Asaba. One wanted to bring her baby. One looked at Mama Ife and said the work was too much. One stole meat from the pot while I was interviewing her. I sent them all away. Amara came on a Tuesday evening when the rain had just stopped. She was small, maybe 23, with a faded black bag and slippers that had seen too many roads. She did not smile too much. She did not talk too much. She stood at the door and waited for me to finish speaking. I told her the pay. It was small. I told her the work. It was big. Cooking, washing, sweeping, helping Mama Efe to the bathroom, helping the children with homework. She listened with her head slightly down. Then she said the only thing that made me remember her face later. Say, I will do everything, but I have one condition. I will only clean the main house after everybody is asleep in the night, after midnight. I laughed because I thought it was a joke. You want to work when we are sleeping? She nodded. Yes, sir. I will cook in the evening. I will wash plates. I will care for Mama in the day. But the sweeping, the mopping, the deep cleaning, I do it at night when the house is quiet. Ada was behind me, frowning. Timmy was already pulling at Amara's bag like she was a new toy. Mama Efe from her chair said, witchcraft. She says that about anything she does not understand. I should have asked more questions. I should have said no. But my kitchen was full of flies. My children's socks were stiff with dirt. My mother's wrapper smelled of urine because I had not had time to wash it well. I was tired in a way sleep does not fix, so I said yes. That was the beginning. The first week, Amara was a gift from God. She woke before anyone and boiled water for Mama Efe's bath. She made tea the way my wife used to, strong with little milk. She braided Ada's hair in neat cornrows without pulling. She taught Timmy how to tie his shoelaces and did not shout when he spilled palm oil on the floor. The children liked her because she was quiet. She did not tell long stories. She did not ask them about their mother. She just walked. In the day, she moved like a shadow, wiping, folding, humming low songs in Urobo I did not know. At night, she disappeared into the boys' quarters we gave her. And then after we slept, the house came alive. At first I thought I was dreaming. The soft swish of a broom on cement, the squeak of the mop bucket wheels, the faint clink of buckets in the kitchen. I would wake at 2 in the morning to urinate and hear her moving in the parlor in total darkness. I told myself it was strange, but not bad. The house was cleaner than it had been in 2 years. The tiles shone. The cobwebs left the ceiling corners. Even Mama Efe's room stopped smelling of medicine. Ada stopped coughing at night. Timmy stopped complaining about cockroaches in his slippers. My sister, Onome, who lives in Ogeli, came to visit and said, David, you finally got sense. This girl is good. She pressed extra money into Amara's hand and whispered to me, Keep her. Good help is hard. But strange things started to pile up, like dust in a corner you pretend not to see. Amara never ate with us. She would serve the food, wait until we finished, then carry her plate to her room. I once walked past at midnight to get water and saw her door locked from inside, but I could hear the mop moving in my own kitchen. I stood there confused, my throat dry, listening to water splash when she was not in the room. Ada told me one morning, Daddy, Amara talks to someone at night. I asked who. She shrugged. I hear two voices when I go to pee, a woman and someone else. They laugh small. I told her it was probably the radio. We do not have a radio in the kitchen. Timmy said Amara knew his mother's favorite song. He heard her humming it while mopping at 1 in the morning. I felt cold because I had never played that song in the house since the burial. I kept it locked in my phone. Mama Efe, who forgets my name some days, started to look different. Her eyes were brighter, her skin was cleaner. One afternoon, I found her rosary neatly coiled on her bedside table, not dropped on the floor as usual. When I asked Amara how she managed to bathe Mama so well, Amara just said, God helps her. I wanted to believe God helps. I needed to believe it. The second week, money started missing. Not big money. 200 naira from my trousers. 500 from the kitchen drawer where I keep change for pure water. I did not accuse her. I am not that kind of man. But I started to lock my bedroom door. Then the neighbors talked. Mama Joy from 2 compounds away stopped me at the junction. David, your new girl, she waka for night o. My son saw her near the canal at 1 a.m. with a bucket. What kind of cleaning is that? I defended her because shame is a heavy coat. She throws dirty water, I said. Mama Joy sucked her teeth. Dirty water does not laugh. I went home angry, not at Amara, but at myself for hiring a stranger with a strange rule. I lay awake for an hour after that, staring at the ceiling, fan turning slow. My mind kept returning to my wife's voice the week before she died. She told me to take care of Mama Efe, to not let the house fall. I had failed her in daylight, and now a stranger was succeeding in darkness. Part of me wanted to thank Amara. Part of me wanted to drag her out. Love and fear fought inside me like two dogs, and I could not tell which one would bite first. That night I lay in bed and listened. At exactly 12:40, I heard the back door open. I heard the soft pad of bare feet, then the swish, then a low voice, then a second voice answering. It was not the wind, it was not a dream. Two people were in my parlor, talking while they cleaned. My chest tightened. I thought of ritualists. I thought of thieves. I thought of all the stories we hear in Delta about house helps who open doors for robbers. I thought of my children sleeping in the next room. I thought of Mama Efe in her wheelchair, helpless. Fear made me sweat through my singlet. Anger made me sit up. Love for my family made me stand. I did not wake Ada or Timmy. I did not carry a cutlass. I carried my phone with the touch off and my heart beating like a drum in my throat. I told myself I would just look. If she was stealing, I would send her away in the morning. If she was doing evil, I would call my brother and the vigilante. I opened my bedroom door slowly. The passage was dark except for a thin line of light under the parlor door. The air smelled of pine disinfectant and something sweet like incense. I could hear the mop, steady, left and right, and the whispering. I moved like a thief in my own house, one hand on the wall, barefoot so the tiles would not creak. As I got closer, I heard Amara's voice clearly. No, Mama, not that side. You will sleep. Mama. She called someone Mama. My mother is the only mama in this house, and my mother cannot stand. My mother has not stood since the stroke took her legs 3 years ago. The doctor in worry said the nerves were dead. We sold her wrapper stock to buy the wheelchair. I felt my knees go weak. I told myself it was another woman, a friend, a relative. She sneaked in. I put my eye to the crack, where our parlor door never closes well. The first thing I saw was Amara, mopping in her nightgown, her hair tied up, walking fast and careful. The floor shone like water. The second thing I saw made me freeze so completely I forgot how to breathe. Beside her, holding the other end of the mop, laughing quietly, sweeping water toward the bucket with strong, steady legs, was Mama Ife. Not in her wheelchair, not being helped, standing, straight, her wrapper tied firm around her waist, her hands gripping the wood, her face alive with a smile I had not seen since before my wife died. She was supposed to be in her room, asleep, unable to walk to the toilet without me carrying her. She was supposed to be broken. Yet there she was, at 1:13 in the morning, cleaning my house in the dark with my new maid, moving like a woman of 50, not 72. Amara looked up as if she felt me and whispered, "She's coming." Mama Efe turned her head toward the door, toward me, and her eyes met mine through the crack. I stumbled back, my phone slipping from my hand, clattering loud on the tile. The mopping stopped. The house went silent. And in that silence, I understood that I had not hired a maid. I had invited a secret into my home that could stand my mother on her feet, and I had no idea what price I would pay before dawn. The phone hit the floor, and the sound was louder than a gun. Amara did not scream. Mama Efe did not fall. They both stood in the parlor, caught in the yellow light, looking at me like children caught stealing meat. I could not speak. My mother, who I had carried to the toilet every morning for 3 years, was standing on her own two legs, holding a mop, breathing hard but standing. "What is this?" My voice broke. "Mama, what is this?" Mama Ife opened her mouth, then closed it. Fear flashed in her eyes. She looked at Amara. Amara stepped in front of her. "Sir, please, let me explain." "Explain what? That you are doing juju on my mother?" I was shouting now. Ada's door creaked. Timmy started crying. I did not care. The anger I had held since my wife died found a place to land. "Sir, lower your voice," Amara whispered. "The children. Do not tell me about my children in my house." Mama Ife suddenly spoke, her voice clear, not the slurred mumble she used in the day. "David, no bejuju, sit down." I had not heard her speak my name that clearly in 3 years. My knees gave way and I sat on the cold tile. Amara knelt beside me. "I did not lie when I came. I said I clean at night. I did not say why. Why is my mother walking?" "Because in the day, she is afraid," Amara said. "In the day, everybody watches her. Everybody pities her. You carry her. Ada pities her. Her body remembers the chair. At night, when nobody is watching, her legs remember something else." I looked at Mama Efe. She was shaking, not from weakness, but from being seen. She leaned on the mop like a walking stick. "I never told you," she said slowly. "After the stroke, the doctor in worry said I could try. Small, small. But I was scared to fall. Your wife, God rest her, she used to hold my hand in the kitchen when you were at work. We would stand for 1 minute, then two. She told me not to tell you until I could walk well, so you would not worry. Then she died. The air left my lungs. When your wife died," Mama Efe continued, tears running, I sat back in the chair. I told myself, what is the use? My son has lost his wife. If I fall and break my hip, who will carry me? Better I stay down. Amara took over. I used to work for a physiotherapist in Ughelli, Madam Caro. I watched her work with stroke patients. I know how to help. When I came here, I saw Mama in the day. I saw how her eyes followed us. I knew she was not finished. Ada was now standing in the passage, holding Timmy's hand. Both stared at their grandmother standing. Grandma, Timmy whispered. Mama Ife smiled through tears. Come. Timmy ran and hugged her legs. She wobbled, but did not fall. Amara held her elbow. I felt shame burn my face. For 3 years, I had treated my mother like a baby. I had loved her, yes, but I had also locked her in that chair with my pity. Why at night? I asked, my voice small. Because pride, Amara said, and because healing needs quiet. In the day, if she tries and falls, Mama Joy will talk. Onome will shout. You will carry her back to the chair and say, Mama, rest. At night, if she falls, only I see. We laugh. We try again. No shame. And the cleaning. Exercise, sir. Sweeping makes the waist turn. Mopping makes the legs step. Carrying bucket makes the arms strong. Your mother was a trader for 40 years. She never sat still. The chair was killing her spirit. So we clean. It made sense in a painful way. It also made me angry. And you did not tell me. You let me carry her every day. Sir, I wanted to, Amara said. The first day, Mama told me your wife's secret. She begged me. She said, let me stand well before my son sees. Let me give him a gift, not a worry. I promised. Mama Efe nodded. I wanted to walk to your wife's grave on her 1 year. That is next month. I wanted to surprise you. Ada started crying. Daddy, Grandma can walk. I stood up slowly. I went to my mother and held her face. Mama, why didn't you trust me? Because you are carrying too much, she said. Since your wife died, you carry work, you carry us, you carry sorrow. I did not want to be another heavy load. We stood there, the 5 of us, around the bucket of dirty water. It should have ended there. But I remembered the missing money. I remembered Mama Joy saying her son saw Amara near the canal at one arm. I remembered Ada hearing two voices, and it was not Mama Efe's voice. My eyes went back to Amara. She would not meet mine. Amara, I said. That is not everything. She flinched. What else happens at midnight? Mama Ife looked confused. What else? We clean. Amara shook her head. Nothing, sir. I stepped closer. Do not lie to me again. Ada hears two voices, not you and Mama, a younger voice. Mama Joy's son saw you at the canal, at one arm with a bucket. Where do you go? And whose money is missing from my trousers? The room went cold. Amara stood up, letting go of Mama. Sir, please send the children to bed. No, they will hear everything from now on. Talk. She took a deep breath. I have a brother, Joseph. He's 15. Where is he? He sleeps at the uncompleted building near the canal. Since 3 months. Mama Efe gasped. Ah, I did not tell you because you said no visitors. I needed this job. After Madame Caro died, her children sold the house. Joseph and I were on the street. I saw your paper. I begged Joseph to stay near, just until I get first salary. I bring him food at night, from the pot, small, small. I also carry him water to bathe, at the canal. That is why I go out. The missing food, the missing money. It clicked. You have been stealing from me, I said flatly. Borrowing, she whispered. I was going to pay back from my salary. I wrote everything inside my Bible. 200, 500, even the milk. I felt used. I had opened my house to a stranger who brought another stranger to my gate every night. In Delta, that is how robbers enter. Pack your things, I said. Now. Mama Efe grabbed my arm with surprising strength. David, no. Mama, leave it. No, you will not throw this girl outside in the night. She gave me back my legs. She lied. She steals. She brings a boy to my compound at midnight. Amara was crying silently now. Sir, Joseph is not thief. He is in SS2. He wants to be engineer. He stays in that building because area boys beat him at the motor park. I clean at night so I can give him food and come back before you wake. I never opened your gate for him. I climbed the back fence. I swear. Climb my fence? My voice rose. You climbed my fence at midnight. Sir, I am sorry. I pointed to her room. Go and bring your bag and bring your book. She went, head down. Mama Efe was pleading in Orobo. David, remember mercy. Your wife showed mercy. I ignored her. My chest was tight with betrayal. Amara came back with her faded bag and a small Bible. She opened it. Inside the back page, in neat writing, Oct 3 to 200 for Joseph transport, Oct 5 to 500 for bread, Oct 7, milk for mama, about 4,000 naira. She placed the Bible on the chair and knelt. Sir, I will go. But please, let mama continue her exercise. I wrote everything she needs to do. She can walk to the grave next month if she tries. Ada stepped forward and did something that broke me. She picked up Amara's bag and held it tight. Daddy, if you send her, I will follow her. Ada, she braids my hair. She helps grandma. She did not steal, she borrowed. You always tell us to help people. Timmy said, I like Amara. I looked at my mother standing, at my daughter holding a maid's bag, at my son on his grandmother's leg, at Amara kneeling on my clean floor. I was tired. Stand up, I told Amara. She stood. You will not go tonight because of my mother and because of my children. But tomorrow, you will bring this Joseph to me in daylight. I want to see his face. If I do not like what I see, both of you will leave. She nodded fast. Thank you, sir. And no more midnight cleaning, I said. You will clean in the day like normal people. Mama Efe and Amara exchanged a quick look. A look that said something I did not understand. Amara opened her mouth, then closed it. Yes, sir. We all went back to bed, but nobody slept. I lay listening to the house settle, my mind turning. Part of me felt like a good man for showing mercy. Part of me felt like a fool for believing another story from a girl who already lied twice. My wife used to say my heart was too soft for this world, and that softness would one day let a snake into our home. I stared at the dark ceiling and wondered if Amara was the snake, or if I was just too broken by grief to see goodness when it came. I thought about the money, the fence climbing, the canal, and I told myself that in the morning I would be firm. I would meet Joseph and end this. At around 3 a.m., I heard a soft knock on the back door. Not the front, not the fence. 3 soft knocks, then a pause, then 2. Amara did not answer. I heard her room door stay closed. The knocking came again, more urgent. I got up, took the small iron rod I keep behind my door, and walked barefoot to the kitchen. My heart was beating fast. I opened the back door slowly. Standing outside in the dark, holding a plastic bucket, breathing hard, was not Joseph. It was a teenage girl, maybe 16, thin, with Amara's same eyes, wearing a school uniform that was too big. She looked at me and froze. Behind her, near the fence, stood Joseph. And behind Joseph, in the shadows by the canal path, were 3 grown men with flashlights off, waiting silently like hunters. The girl whispered, Uncle, please. Amara said to come. They said if we don't open the gate tonight, they will tell everyone her secret and burn the house down tonight. I raised the iron rod, my blood turning to ice, and realized the midnight cleaning was never about my mother at all. It was about survival, and I had invited danger inside. I did not swing the iron rod. I pulled the girl inside and slammed the back door. Her name was Blessing. She was shaking so hard the bucket hit the floor and water splashed my feet. Joseph followed, jumping the fence like he had done it many times. He was thin, tall, with school books tied with rope. The three men outside did not move at first. Then one shouted, "Open this gate. We know the girl is inside." My heart was beating in my ears. I pushed Blessing and Joseph toward the parlor. Inside, now. Amara came running from her room, her wrapper half tied. When she saw Blessing, she gasped and covered her mouth. "You came. Oh God, you came. You knew they would come?" I asked, my voice low and dangerous. Amara nodded, tears already falling. "Sir, please, let me explain before they break the door." Mama Efe was awake, standing by her wheelchair, holding the wall. Ada and Timmy huddled behind her. The house that was clean was now full of fear. Outside, the men kicked the gate. "Amara, we know you are there. Bring the children out or we tell the whole street what you do at night." I looked at Amara. "What do you do at night?" She fell to her knees again. "Sir, I wash dead bodies." The room went silent. Even the men outside stopped kicking for a second. "What?" I whispered. "I work for the mortuary at the General Hospital in Udu," she said fast, words tumbling. "Not as staff, as helper. After midnight, when families bring bodies from accidents, from the river, from fights, the attendants call me. I wash the bodies of women and girls. I dress them. I pray for them. They pay me 2,000, sometimes 3. Cash. No record. My stomach turned. "You leave my house at midnight to touch corpses?" "Yes, sir. That is why I said I must clean at night. I cannot do it in day. The mortuary work finishes by 2. I come back. I bathe at the canal so I don't bring death smell into your children's house. I wash my hands with disinfectant. Then I mop your house so everywhere is clean before morning." I did not want anybody to know. People will say I am unclean. They will say I carry spirits. Blessing started crying. They want me to do it too. Joseph spoke for the first time, his voice angry. "The men outside are mortuary boys. Their Oga said if Amara does not bring Blessing to replace her, because Amara wants to stop, they will tell everyone in Otokutu that she sleeps with dead men for money. They will say she is a witch. They will burn her things." Now it made sense. The bucket at the canal, the incense smell, the money missing because mortuary pay was small and late. The second voice Ada heard was Blessing, practicing prayers with Amara at night when Mama Efe was resting. Amara looked at me, broken. "I wanted to stop when I got this job. I wanted to be just a maid. I told them last week I am done. They said no. They said I owe them for training me. They said, bring my sister or we disgrace you." I told Blessing to hide in the uncompleted building with Joseph. Tonight they found her. The gate shook again, harder. Last warning, Amara. I had a choice. Open the gate and give them the girls, and save my family from trouble, or lock the gate and bring trouble into my home. I looked at Mama Efe standing. I looked at Ada holding Timmy. I looked at my clean floor, cleaned by hands that had washed strangers, so they could meet God with dignity. I remembered my wife. She was a nurse. She used to wash bodies too. She used to say, "David, somebody must do it with love, or the dead go to God feeling abandoned." I made my decision. I went to my room, took my phone, and called my brother in the vigilante. Then I called Onome. Then I opened the front door, not the back, and stepped into the compound with the iron rod and my phone torch on. 3 men stood at my gate, young, rough, smelling of kai kai. The leader had a scar on his cheek. "This is my house," I said, my voice shaking but loud. "You will not threaten children here." He laughed. "Oga, we don't want trouble. Just give us the girl. Amara promised." Amara promised nothing. "She worked for you. She's done. Leave." He stepped closer. "If we leave, Tomorrow the whole market will know your maid is a corpse washer. Your children will have no friends. Your mother will be called witch mother. Behind me, the door opened. Mama Ife walked out, slowly, one hand on the wall, then on her own, standing straight in the yard light. She had never walked outside since the stroke. She looked at the men. I am the mother of this house. This girl gave me my legs back. You will not shame her under my roof. The men stared. A woman who was supposed to be crippled was standing and talking like a chief. Then Ada stepped out, holding her small Bible. Then Timmy. Then Amara, Blessing, and Joseph. The leaders spat. Una dey do film. My phone rang. My brother and two vigilante men were at the junction. Onome's husband's car headlights turned into our street. The men saw the lights and stepped back. We go see, the leader said, and they melted into the dark toward the canal. I locked the gate with shaking hands. Inside, everybody was breathing hard. Amara collapsed to the ground, crying. Sir, I am sorry. I brought this to your house. I knelt beside her. For the first time, I touched her shoulder like a father. Why didn't you tell me from the start? Because you would not hire me, she sobbed. Who hires a corpse washer to cook for their children? I needed this job. Joseph needs school fees. Blessing needs WAEC. After Madame Caro died, the mortuary was the only place that would take me without certificate. I did it for 1 year. I prayed for every woman. I never stole. I never did bad. Blessing hugged her sister. Joseph stood stiff, trying to be a man. Amaife sat down slowly on the step, tired from standing. She held Amara's hand. My daughter, you wash the dead with respect. That is not shame. That is holy work. Ada whispered to me, Daddy, is Amara bad? I looked at my daughter. No, Amara is brave. That night, nobody slept again. The vigilantes stayed till morning. Onome came and cooked tea. We all sat in the parlor, the house full for the first time since my wife died. In the morning, I told Amara, you will not go back to the mortuary. She nodded, eyes red. You will walk here, in daylight. No more secrets. Blessing and Joseph will stay in the boys' quarters until we find a better place. They will go to school from here. Amara started. Sir? My wife told me before she died, if you have room for one more, you have room. We have room. Joseph cried. Blessing smiled for the first time. For 2 weeks, life was almost normal. Amara cleaned in the day. Mama Efe walked with a stick from the parlor to the kitchen and back, getting stronger. Ada taught Blessing how to braid. Timmy and Joseph played football with pure water sachets. I paid the children's school fees from my tank farm bonus. Onome helped with uniforms. Mama Joy stopped gossiping when she saw Mama Efe walking to the junction herself. I thought the danger had passed. Then on a Thursday, exactly 3 weeks after that night, I came home early from work. The house was too quiet. The front door was open. The pot of soup was boiling over on the stove. I called, Amara? Mama? No answer. I ran to Mama Efe's room. Empty. Her wheelchair was turned over. I ran to the children's room. Ada and Timmy were there, holding each other, crying. Daddy, Ada sobbed. Men came. They wore masks. They took Amara, Blessing, and Grandma. They said if you call police, they would dump them in the canal, like the bodies Amara used to wash. My blood froze. I grabbed my phone. It rang in my hand. Unknown number. I answered. A voice said, Oga David, you took our worker. You shamed us in front of vigilante. Now you will pay. Bring 50,000 to the mortuary back gate by midnight. Come alone. Or tomorrow your mother will be the next body your maid will wash. The line cut. I looked at my children, at the empty house, at the clean floor Amara had mopped every night to keep dirt away from us. I sat on the floor and held Ada and Timmy while my mind raced. 50,000 was almost all my salary. I had just paid school fees. The mortuary boys knew this. They knew tank farm workers get paid on the 25th. They knew I was a widower with an old mother. They had watched my house for weeks while Amara went to the canal. I called my brother. He said, "Do not go alone." Onome said, "Call the police." But the police in Udu would ask for money first and time we did not have. Midnight was 6 hours away. I walked to Amara's small room. It was neat. Her Bible was on the pillow. Inside her bag, I found a notebook wrapped in nylon. It was not accounts, it was names. Page after page of women's names, dates, and short prayers. March 12. Mama Rose, 67, river accident. I washed you, I prayed, you find peace. April 2. Blessing, 19, fight. I covered your wounds. More than 80 names. At the back, in fresh ink, if anything happens to me, tell Oga David I am sorry, I lied. Tell him I cleaned his house at midnight because I wanted his children to never smell death on me. Tell him his wife was the nurse who taught me how to wash a body with dignity at the General Hospital 3 years ago. She held my hand when I was scared. My hands shook. My wife knew Amara. That was why Amara knew my wife's favorite song. That was why she made tea the same way. That was why Mama Efe trusted her on the first day. I closed the book and cried, for the first time since the burial. Ada came and wiped my face. "Daddy, we will fight," she said. I looked at my daughter and remembered my promise to my wife. Keep the house clean enough for her to be proud of. Clean was not just tiles. Clean was courage. I stood up and prepared to go, and I understood the final secret Amara had kept. The midnight cleaning was never about exercise. It was about washing away the smell of death so my children would not know what she carried. And now death had come to my door anyway, ready to take everything I loved tonight. I went to the mortuary at 11:45, but I did not go alone. My brother and two vigilante men followed 50 meters behind in the dark, as we planned. Onome stayed with Ada and Timmy, all doors locked. Her husband's car parked across our gate. In my pocket was not 50,000. It was 20,000. Mama Efe's gold earrings and Amara's notebook of names. In my other pocket was my phone, recording everything. The back gate of the mortuary smelled of bleach and rain. The scarred boy was there with two others. No masks this time. They thought fear had made me stupid. "Where is the money?" he asked. I gave him the envelope. "Where is my mother?" He counted, frowned. "This is not complete." "It is everything I have." "Take it." He smiled. "Oga, you think we are Father Christmas?" We said 50. Behind him, a door creaked. Matron Itohan stepped out in her white coat, the same woman who had saved us weeks before. She was not supposed to be there at midnight, but I had called her after reading Amara's notebook. I told her everything. "Good evening, boys," she said calmly. "Still using my mortuary to kidnap women?" The boys froze. The scarred one tried to run. My brother grabbed him. The vigilante held the other two. Matron did not shout. She opened her phone and played a voice note. It was the scarred boy's voice from 3 days earlier, demanding money from another family. She had been recording them for months. "You are not mortuary staff," she said. "You are area boys I sacked 6 months ago for stealing from bodies. You have been using the back gate at night to extort my former helpers. Tonight, you end." The police van turned the corner then. Real police, not the ones who asked for money first. Matron had called the DPO herself. "Where are they?" I asked, my voice breaking. The scarred boy, now on his knees, pointed toward the canal. "Uncompleted building, second floor. We did not touch them. We swear." We ran. My brother, me, the police, Matron. The building near the canal was dark and smelled of damp cement. On the second floor, behind a rusted door, we found them. Mama Efe was sitting on a bag of cement, her rosary in her hand, praying aloud. She looked up and smiled, like we were late for dinner. David, you took long. Blessing was tied to a chair, crying silently. Amara was tied to a pillar, her cheeks swollen, but her eyes were fierce. When she saw me, she did not cry. She nodded once, like a soldier. I untied her hands first. She grabbed my shirt. Sir, are the children safe? They are safe. The police took the boys away. Matron held Amara's face and examined the bruise. You should have come to me the first day they threatened you, she said softly. I was ashamed, Amara whispered. Shame is for those who do evil, not for those who clean up after it, Matron said. We walked home slowly, Mama Efe leaning on me and Amara at the same time, walking better than she had in 3 years. The night air was cool. The canal water moved quietly. At home, Onome opened the gate crying. Ada and Timmy ran out and hugged their grandmother so hard she laughed. Blessing and Joseph held each other and wept. I made tea, strong, with little milk, the way my wife used to. I gave a cup to Amara. She held it with both hands and stared into it. Sir, she said after a long silence, your wife, Madam Grace, she saved me. 3 years ago I was 14, homeless after my parents died in a boat accident in the river. I was sleeping at the hospital corridor. Your wife found me, she gave me food, she taught me how to wash a body with respect. She said, if you do this work, do it like you are preparing your own mother for heaven. When she got sick, she told me to find a good family one day. When I saw your paper on the gate, I knew it was your house. I recognized Mama Efe from the photo in your wife's phone. That is why I came. That is why I asked to clean at night. I wanted to finish the mortuary work quietly, then be free. I wanted to serve her family. The room was quiet. Mama Efe reached over and took Amara's hand. My daughter-in-law sent you to us. I felt something lift off my chest, a weight I had carried since the burial. My wife had not just left us. She had planted help before she left. The next morning, I went to the tank farm and requested a transfer to day shift only. The supervisor, who knew my story, approved it. I came home at 5 p.m. every day after that. We changed the house. We turned the boys' quarters into a real room for Blessing and Joseph. We registered them at the school near the junction. Blessing passed her WAEC mock. Joseph fixed the old standing fan that had been broken for 2 years. He also started teaching Timmy mathematics in the evenings, using charcoal on the back of old calendars. Ada began to call Blessing Big Sister, and Blessing began to answer. Amara stopped cleaning at midnight. She cleaned at 7 in the morning, with music playing, windows open, Ada dancing with the broom, Timmy pouring too much water on the floor. The neighbors would hear us laughing, and Mama Joy would shout over the fence, Una don't turn house to party. Mama Efe walked to my wife's grave on the 1 year anniversary with her stick, slowly, all the way from the house to the cemetery in Udu. The whole compound followed behind her. She stood at the grave, no wheelchair, and said, Grace, I kept my promise. I stood up. Amara stood beside her and placed white flowers on the grave. She whispered, Thank you, madam. I placed my hand on the headstone and told my wife the house was clean. That night, for the first time in a year, I slept through till morning without waking to check the doors. 3 months later, Matron Itohan called. The mortuary boys were sentenced. She offered Amara a real job, day shift, with proper pay, training as a mortuary assistant, with certificate. Amara looked at me, unsure. I told her, it is holy work. My wife said so. If you want it, take it. She shook her head. I want to stay here, but I want to train on Saturdays, so I can do it right, with respect, not in secret. We agreed. Every Saturday morning she goes to the hospital in her clean uniform, and every Saturday evening she comes home and cooks jollof for all of us. One evening, As we ate together, all seven of us around the small dining table that used to feel too big, Ada asked, Daddy, why did Amara really clean at midnight? I looked at Amara. She smiled. I said, because she was washing away debt, so life could stay in this house. Mama Efe added, and because she was helping me learn to walk again, without shame. Joseph said, and because she was protecting Blessing. Blessing said, and because she was keeping a promise to your mommy. Amara looked down at her plate, tears in her eyes, but smiling. All true. After dinner, we all cleaned together, not at midnight, at 8 p.m., with light on, with laughter. Mama Efe mopped small with her stick beside her. Ada swept. Timmy and Joseph carried the bucket, spilling half of it. Blessing wiped the tables. Amara supervised, clapping. I stood in the doorway, watching my house, my full house, and I finally understood who was helping Amara clean at midnight all those weeks. It was not a ghost. It was not juju. It was not just my mother. It was my wife, Grace, walking through the hands of a girl she had saved, teaching my mother to stand, teaching my children to love again, teaching me that family is not only blood, it is whoever stays to mop the floor when the night is darkest. Amara caught me staring and asked, Sir, what are you thinking? I said, I am thinking the house is finally clean enough. She laughed, the first real loud laugh I ever heard from her. Oga, housework never finishes. And she was right. But now we do it together, in the light, with nothing to hide. The following Sunday, we went to church as a full family for the first time. Pastor called us out for testimony. Mama Efe walked to the altar without her stick, slowly but steady, and the whole church stood up clapping. She told them, God sent me a daughter when I lost one. Amara hid her face, shy. After service, three women from the Women's Guild asked Amara to teach them how to care for stroke patients at home. She agreed, for free. My sister Onome started a small contribution with her friends in Ugeli. They bought a deep freezer for us so Amara could store food and stop worrying about waste. Joseph used his skill with wires to connect it properly. Blessing started a small hair braiding business after school on our veranda, using the money to buy her own WAEC form without asking me. One night in December, harmattan cold, I found Amara in the parlor, looking at her notebook of names. She had added three more names from her Saturday training, but this time with proper records and prayers said in daylight. She looked up and said, Sir, I used to be afraid of the dark because of what I carried. Now I am not afraid because the dark is where you found me. I understood then that the story was never about a maid. It was about what grief does to a house when nobody cleans it. Grief leaves dust in corners. Grief lets cockroaches enter. Grief makes a mother sit in a chair for 3 years. It takes someone willing to work while everyone sleeps to make things new again. Ada is now 12. She wants to be a nurse like her mother and like Amara on Saturdays. Timmy is 8. He tells his classmates that he has two big sisters and one big brother, and that his grandma can outwork their grandpas. Mama Efe is 73 and walks to the market twice a week, haggling for fish like she did 20 years ago. And me, David, I no longer work 12-hour nights. I come home early. I help with homework. I sit with my mother while she shells egusi. I watch Amara teach Blessing how to make tea strong with little milk, exactly the way Grace taught her. Sometimes at 1 in the morning, I still wake up out of habit, listening for the swish of a mop. The house is quiet, everyone is sleeping, the floor is already clean. I smile in the dark and whisper thank you to my wife, and I go back to sleep, knowing that the person helping us now is not hiding in the shadows. She's sleeping in the room next door, safe, part of us. And tomorrow we'll be clean together when the sun is up. The midnight cleaning stopped. The danger ended. The secret became a story we tell visitors when they ask why Mama Efe works so well, why Blessing calls me daddy, why our house is always shining. I tell them, we had a maid who cleaned at midnight. I followed her one night, and I saw who was helping her. It was love, wearing my late wife's face, and it saved us all. And every night before bed, Amara still leaves a small cup of water by the back door for any stranger who might be thirsty, because she remembers what it felt like to be outside. And she promised my wife she would never let another child sleep hungry near our gate. That is how a simple job became a dangerous secret, and how that secret changed our home forever. Not with fear, but with family.